Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we talk with K-State's Gregg Ibendahl. He was one of the presenters at the Virtual Risk Profit Conference earlier in the month. We'll look at some projections for farm income and expenses for 2020 and 2021. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, and our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and markets from Pinion. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agricultural news from agview.net, the Creighton University Rural Main Street Index increased slightly in August from July's weak index number. A monthly survey of bank CEOs in rural areas of a 10-state region that depend on agriculture and energy show that the August index is the sixth straight month of a number below growth neutral. The August index showed up a slight increase at 44.7 up from July's 44.1, but that number still is a recessionary economic zone. The index ranges from 0 to 100. The index of 50 represents growth neutral. Dr. Ernie Goss oversees the Rural Main Street Index at Creighton, says despite the input of some $32 billion in U.S. farm support payments this year, only 8% of the bankers reported their area economy has improved compared to July, when 18% said the economic conditions had gotten worse. Well, House Ag Committee Chair Colin Peterson has sent a letter to Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue on the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, or CFAP. He's asking for clarification on how USDA determined the eligibility of different crops, livestock, and poultry species under CFAP. In that letter, Peterson contends that the data used to USDA to calculate those payments was limited to only the earliest parts of the pandemic, and so it missed the full extent of damages to specific commodities. More on these and other ag news at agview.net. Stay with us. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
And joining us now, Dr. Gregg Ibendahl, who is a K-State Ag economist, and we're going to talk about some of his presentation that he did at the recent Risk Profit Conference, and that is dealing with projections for farm income for not only 2020, but also 2021. Gregg, always great to talk with you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks for being here.
So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of split this up in our two segments. This first one, we're going to focus on revenue, and then the second segment, we're going to talk about expense. So I guess you can kind of take it however you want to, but Gregg, as we know, this year and even projections the next year already, the revenue side on Kansas farms and ranches is, I'm not sure what word I would use, but one thing looking at in 2020, we've got an awful lot of corn out there.
Yeah, so as you might expect, with the virus coming in and kind of doing a number on everything, the demand has dropped way off, and on the meat side, the ability to even process that meat turned out to be a big issue too. So as you might guess, we're looking at a big drop across the board, really, for most things. Crop we're looking at for corn about 16% lower revenue, grain sorghum 5% lower, soybeans 11% lower. Wheat is 8% lower, but some of that wheat reflection this year is for higher yields compared to what it was the year before, because the year before was kind of a bad year. So again, kind of a downside on the revenue side for grains. Same thing on the beef side, although the beef side actually doesn't look near as bad as what maybe did a couple months ago. So when I first did these initial revenue projections back then, I was forecasting maybe like a 20% decline in beef revenue. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad. My fellow economist here at K-State, Glenn Townser, he's still forecasting us to be down, but he's more like in the 7 to 10% range as far as prices is concerned. So the beef side will still be kind of bad, but it won't be quite as bad as what we originally first thought.
Well, as we look, I think at the beginning of the year, we had a little hope with the phase one trade deal and some other situations. And then really, I would guess that even as you were looking at projections, you weren't projecting kind of the summer we've had. But could it be worse, though, if our ports had to be shut down, we couldn't get kind of these continuing sales, even though they're not maybe as good as what we'd like?
Yeah, that's certainly a factor. We don't know what's going to happen in the regard with going with that. You did bring up an interesting point there, because one good thing on the revenue side is that we do have some backstops in place to help with that. So the year before, we had the market facilitation payment, which was a big boost to farmers' income. Now, we kind of knew coming into this year we probably wouldn't have that. So that was going to be a big drop off right there. But, things like crop insurance, come in nicely and kind of pick up some of these revenue shortfalls that we're projecting from lower grain prices. So, most farmers here in Kansas probably have some version of a crop revenue coverage for their grains. So when they first set those prices for those insurance contracts back in February, farmers were probably thinking, well, this price doesn't look all that great compared to what the price currently is. Well, now we look at it and say, oh, those weren't too bad at all here. So really, when we look at the revenue side, you got to include the crop insurance payment, and that's probably going to be about twice what it was last year. So that will definitely help mitigate some of the lower prices that we're seeing. And then we've also had a couple of these other things, thanks to the CARES Act and the whole virus thing. There's been a couple of special provisions, especially for the meat producers, to help with revenue. So that'll help some, although I don't think we're going to be back to what we were as far as 2019 net farm income and revenue. We're going to be below that, but it's not going to be a total disaster like I was thinking maybe back in April or so.
Good. Dr. Gregg Ibendahl is joining us. We're talking farm income and expense projections for 2020 and 2021. Let's take a break. We will come back and we will talk the expense side in just a moment. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. And agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
And our guest this week is Dr. Gregg Ibendahl, K-State Ag economist, and he recently presented at the Risk Profit Conference looking at projections for kind of farm income and expense on the Kansas farms and ranches. And we talked about the revenue side. Let's talk about the expense side. And while there was a lot of uncertainty, one thing we are certain of, it's not getting any cheaper to either farm or ranch.
Yeah, that's true. Although I guess the one good side effect from the whole virus is that it has done a number on the demand for oil, which in turn leads to a should lead to a lower fertilizer price somewhere in this coming year here. So, going into this whole virus thing, we were probably in the mid 50s as far as the oil price was concerned, and that probably led to about, if you fill your gas tank up for your car, you're probably paying about $2.50 a gallon for gas. And that's all well and good. I think that actually supports our oil producers here in the U.S. who are doing fracking at that price level. But as you might imagine, thanks to the virus and everyone having to stay at home, the demand for oil went way, way down. In fact, if you follow the oil price, there was one day for like May or June delivery where the oil price actually went negative. Now, that's not good. I mean, that may be good short term when you fill your gas tank up because you have some pretty cheap gas, you'll notice. But it's not good for our oil producers here in the U.S. So I think we've lost some of our capabilities to produce oil in the U.S. because of that. So oil has kind of settled around now about $40 a barrel, which is a little higher than what I thought it was going to be. That's probably below break even for a lot of our fracking oil producers. But that lower oil price means that we're probably in the process of seeing lower fertilizer prices come out throughout the year. I think fertilizer prices, I predicted the national anhydrous price to go down to about $4.25 by the end of the year. We're only about halfway there so far. So I think there's still some gains to be seen in the fertilizer side as far as farmers are concerned to see lower fertilizer prices. Now, they're not going to see all those gains in those lower fertilizer prices this year because they probably bought some fertilizer, pre-virus type situation. So I think 2021 will actually be a really good year for a lot of the inputs for farmers. Fertilizer makes up about 20% of a farmer's expenses. I think in 2021, they will fully realize some of those lower fertilizer prices. And the same thing with oil, that should be lower diesel fuel prices too.
Well, and seed, other inputs kind of continue to maintain. But what is the underlying factor? Is it household expenses and the way you maybe calculate those? Because as we talked in our first segment, some of those additional payments coming in from the government kind of help buoy things up a bit. But I guess that seems to be always kind of be the wild card, if you will.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue for farmers this year. So, typically when we also are able to keep track with our KFMA data here at K-State, what a farmer's living expenses are. And typically those are about $75,000 per year, which is pretty much what the typical, average Kansas, any kind of family would spend. That's not an unusual number at all. So if you're spending $75,000 on family living, and my projection for net farm income this year is probably somewhere between maybe 30 to, and we were like 50,000 last year when you take out that MFP payment. So probably somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 for net farm income. That's kind of a gap that farm family is going to have to give some thought through how they're going to fill that. So, you certainly can only cut your family living so much here. So where's the balance going to come from? And I think we saw last year, farmers tend to take on a little more debt. They may not realize they're doing it. They may not pay off back all their credit operating loan, or maybe they buy a piece of equipment and finance it when they might pay cash otherwise. So we're seeing a slow increase in a farmer's debt level, which not problematic yet, but I think going forward here, that keeps happening, could be a problem, especially if interest rates ever go back up again.
So folks want to learn more about maybe your presentation or other research that you have done on projections for net income on Kansas farms and ranches. How can they learn more?
Well, probably our agmanager.info is our best site to go. We have all of our ag economists here in the K-State that we all publish up there, and it's a wealth of information.
Dr. Ibendahl, always appreciate you talking with us. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Dr. Gregg Ibendahl, K-State ag economist, has joined us on this segment. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn. For livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
"2020 has been very challenging on many fronts, and ethanol is one of those fronts. For Kansas corn, the growth and use of ethanol remains the number two, just barely the number two market for us after livestock feeding. So both domestically and looking at opportunities for export internationally, we want to be supportive of those ethanol plants. When COVID really hit and the economy shut down, gasoline consumption plummeted. People weren't driving to work, and they certainly weren't driving to other places. So that really hurt the ethanol sector. Now, if there is somewhat of a opportunity here for the ethanol plants, the feedstock for many cleansers, including hand sanitizer, the preferred feedstock is ethanol. And a number of plants, including several in Kansas, have switched or have taken part of their production stream to supply the cleanser or hand sanitizer market. Challenging for ethanol, a lot of volatility in their profitability, both bad during the shutdown and then coming back fairly strong, but not sure how long that will continue. And we'll go back to what are typical commodity markets and returns in a commodities market. So we stand ready at Kansas Corn to continue working with our ethanol plants and some other smaller distilleries that have also been making hand sanitizer to keep that ethanol market as strong as we possibly can.
When your college career begins, you'll have the opportunity to build upon your skills. One of those opportunities could be joining a collegiate Farm Bureau chapter. With programs at 19 2- and 4-year schools around the state, you can't go far without the possibility of joining a chapter. They provide opportunities to meet new friends and mentors, build leadership skills, and experience statewide events and gain eligibility for scholarships. Want to learn more? Visit www.kfb.org/collegiate.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
My name is Jim Schmidt. I represent the 5th District as a board member on Kansas Farm Bureau's Vote FBF PAC, which is the voters organized to elect Farm Bureau friends. So Kansas Farm Bureau by its nature is a grassroots organization, and one of our key areas that we focus on is advocacy. And the goal with the Vote FBF PAC and the efforts at the county level to surface recommendations is to provide us with candidates both at the local, state, and federal levels that are friendly to agriculture, to farmers and ranchers across the state.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
No one plans to get sick or injured, but when life happens, it's important you and your family are protected. Kansas Farm Bureau health plans are there to provide continued health care coverage to meet your needs. Choose from a broad range of individual and family plans. And if you're over 65, we have options for you too. Learn more at kfbhealthplans.com or contact a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent near you.
Kansas State University officials say a $650,000 grant from the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture has spurred a partnership with a Canadian university to improve wheat using genome editing technology. Edward Akanoff, a wheat geneticist who will lead K-State's work on this project, said the university will join with researchers at the University of Saskatchewan in using genome editing technology to improve productivity and nutrition in the world's wheat lines. Genome editing, he said, relies on a technology called clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, better known by its abbreviation, CRISPR. Akanoff says CRISPR is a powerful and extremely precise molecular tool capable of making targeted changes in genetic code. It allows us to produce novel variants of genes that have improved properties and create a positive impact on the traits of interest. Using genome editing to target genes that are linked to valuable agronomic traits allows researchers to accelerate the development of crops that produce higher yields, are more nutritious, or yield higher quality grain. Akanoff's research team at K-State has previously used CRISPR-based genome editing to create novel variants of genes and develop wheat lines with increased grain size and weight and number of grains per head. The project will collaborate closely with NIFA's Wheat Coordinated Agriculture Project, which is a multi-state project, the International Wheat Yield Partnership, and the NIFA IWIP Winter Wheat Breeding Innovation Hub, which was recently established at K-State.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
The Kansas Beef Council hosted an educational training session during the Kansas Association for Career and Technical Education virtual conference. The webinar focused on equipping educators with science-based information and providing tools to help dispel common beef nutrition and production-related misconceptions. During the training, Kansas Beef Council staff demonstrated 2 new checkoff-funded teacher-developed curriculums for middle school and high school STEM and family and consumer science classes. Both aim to offer students a greater understanding of beef production and include interactive learning options about the beef life cycle and the role of beef in a healthy and sustainable diet. Checkoff-funded curriculum like these create greater beef literacy that can lead to more in-depth investigations and activities that help keep the conversation going about the journey of beef from pasture to plate. This checkoff-funded program is just one part of the Kansas Beef Council's Greater Nutrition Outreach program that seeks to disseminate science-based information to consumers showing how beef fits within a healthy and active lifestyle. Kansas Beef Council staff routinely interact with leading dietitians and health influencers through seminars like Nutrition Adventure and the annual Dietetic Intern Media Training workshops that focus on educating health influencers using peer-reviewed beef research.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, But how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Good morning, Zach Otot with Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom. This week's been keeping everyone on their toes within the ag space. Folks with the USDA slapped us on the back again and gave us something positive to trade after they dropped the crop condition ratings last Monday. This was the first of the weekly reports I was able to capture updates on the Iowa storm. We saw them drop corn by 5 points and beans by 3. It'll be interesting to see if the ratings continue to fall on Monday as well as the coming weeks ahead. A lot of folks are still weighing the fact that most of the Midwest is going to have a monstrous corn crop. It seems it's going to take more fuel to feed this market to push us through our recent highs back in July. On soybeans, they've gotten a different story. We're still trading weather in this market. A lot of bean country hasn't caught much for rain in the past month. If extended forecasts remain dry, we'd likely see another bump. Wheat seems to be tagging along for the ride. We've seen some export business, but not enough yet to allow us to stand on our own. Prices will be a factor in determining how much wheat gets drilled this fall, because at these levels, it ain't too exciting. I've always said it takes more than one thing to move a market, and right now, there's some irons in the fire. We've gotten the Iowa storm, drier forecast, decent export business, the dollar near its lows and going nowhere fast. However, if this rally is going to sustain, we'd like to see more of this. It seems everyone's tone has changed this last week. Not too long ago, we were talking corn with a 2 in front of it. Now, we're getting a push higher as we're heading into harvest. I'm not saying not to be optimistic. With this recent move, it's hard not to. Be friendly, just don't be foolish. As you make sales, respect the upside and give yourself a chance to win. But don't wait and have a couple cents cost you 50. Be smart and reasonable, and if you have questions on what to do, give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Zach Otot. Have a productive day.
Well, that's our show this week. Be sure and be social with us online at KansasAgReport.net or on Facebook at Kansas Ag Report Television Show or Twitter, Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.